Everybody come. We are starting now. Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to welcome you all to the briefing upon the political report of the CIC of the EFF. This briefing, as indicated in the program, seeks to give you an opportunity to interact with him, since you can't interact with him in the hall, about the political report together with the officials of the EFF. You all know who is who by now. So I'm just going to immediately hand over to the CIC to do a brief introductory statement, and then we can entertain questions. Mr. President.
Thank you very much. I don't know what Mwiseni wants me to say, because what I wanted to say, I said it there in the hall. But I want to really thank you for coming and covering our event. We can say it has been a difficult journey. Everything, all of you will agree, has been running very smooth. From registration to plenary, and even in plenary, things are moving as planned. We'll now go back to get messages of support, and then from there, we'll get the organizational report. Then after organizational report, you will have to recuse yourselves, because it will be a treasurer's report, which is a closed session. We haven't heard of any incident. There was minor incident in one hotel last night where delegates had some disagreement, but security managed to call them to order. And when we intervened, they said they have their own things. It was not conference related. So we thought it's not an issue we should be having a headache about. Yeah, I think basically that is that. No, I had, I was told the ENCA has withdrawn in solidarity with Amabunga and Daily Maverick and all that. And it's a very unfortunate decision, because since we said we will no longer allow Amabugani to our events, that was at President Mugabe's memorial, ENCA has been covering us. It had never said, since you said you don't welcome Amabungani, we'll stop covering you, and Daily Maverick. Now, comrades, I should make this point very clear. We welcome the withdrawal of the ENCA in all our events. And you must never go back and report that we banned the ENCA. They withdrew from our conference, meaning they withdrew from the covering the EFF. So we don't want to see any ENCA anywhere in our events. So if that is going to be their attitude, let them bring it on. So we have not expelled them. We never had a problem with them. We said we have a problem with Amabungani. We announced it at President Mugabe. Since President Mugabe, I've been to ENCA so many times. They never asked me about Amabungan. Today I speak about Johan Rupert and what Rupert does to this country. They cut the feed and use Daily Maverick excuse. But it's Johan. Johan, once you take him on, he takes his initiatives to fight back. He closes people's accounts, Johan. He cuts you off from the media because he owns the media. You know, Johan once wrote an SMS to Floyd and saying to Floyd, you can't say the things you said in Parliament. And Floyd told him not to contact him anymore. and all of that. From there, he started making some threats, thinking, we're scared of, we're not scared of Johan. We're not scared of the Oppenheimers. We're not. We took the similar decision of ANN7. ANN7 was used by a faction in the ANC. And then ENCA never took solidarity. Daily Maverick and Amabungan are used by a different faction in the ANC. Same thing that Zuma Group did, had their own channel, attacking their opponents. The Cyril and Pravin's group now have their own platform, attacking their opponents. And we must not treat them the same way we treated ANN7. The same approach is the same approach. You become factional in your reporting and you single out EFF for your assault. There's no problem. Now, Basson, what is Basson's name? Adrian Basson. I almost said Aldrian because I saw him there at the back. Adrian Basson says they will ask questions on behalf of Amabungan. So anyone who's here from News 24 is sent by Amabungan. So he said they will ask questions on behalf of Amabungan. We have no problem, Sidi, with any question. You can even ask us direction to God, we'll give you. We have no problem at all. We have no problem with any question. You can ask us any question you want to ask us. We have no problem with the media holding us accountable at all. So you must never, he thinks he's doing a big thing to pursue a Mabungan agenda in our press conference. Mabungan was never banned in a press conference. It was banned from all activities of the EFF. We're not hiding anything in this conference. You are here, you ask any question. Leaders came here before me, they answered questions. They asked, I come here after political report, I'm here. And after organizational report, the SG will have to come and then you take him through until we finish. I think our relationship since we arrived here, it has been very nice. And one journalist was saying even the security is very friendly to us. That's EFF for you. Yeah. It gives you couches. Yeah. And in the conference, you've got a well-designed area for the journalists. You have never seen it anywhere. Those who claim to be governing, they make you sit on the floor because they don't respect you. And then when they go to the corners, they say, we support media freedom. We are the people who treat the people who are critical of us very nicely. We don't have a problem at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the president and other officials, as per the announcement, they have to be back at 15:30. So let's take one round of hands, keep it crisp, and then I will also persuade them to keep it crisp. So we'll take only one round, Mr. President, because the time is already gone. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10, number 11, number 12. Agreed? Number 13. Please remember your number. You have been numbered now. Number 1.
Thank you, Mbuyiseni. Jan Nyubar for the South African. Arising from your address, Mr. Malema, you said that when you look at the ability of the state to take the lead as for driving economic development, you must not be subjective, you must look at objective facts. Now, given the current performance of the state when it drives development, how will the EFF, given that people have job security, if and when it takes over, be able to have an able state given the state's current situation? And I also just wanted to know, on section 25 of the Constitution, have you submitted your proposal on how the constitutional amendment should be worded? And lastly, on the NHI, you seem critical of the state's ability to implement it. I read your 250-page document, and you seem to agree with the basic premise, but not with the state's ability to implement. Will you therefore be supportive of the act which you criticized in your speech?
Number 2. Hari, Chief.
Sophie Mkwena from the SABC. I just want to look at the part in your discussion document, Battle of Ideas, when you talk about the current main story today and the developments around the media and EFF. In terms of the Battle of the Ideas, you spoke about self-regulation or allowing media to set its own structures to look at what needs to be done to improve ourselves. But you also said there is nothing that's available right now. The SANEF, the Editors Forum, on many occasions, they have tried to have a meeting with the EFF to try and resolve this standoff that doesn't take us anywhere as a country. And you promised that you are busy, it's election time, and that can be done after elections. Are you still willing and available to engage with SANEF to try and iron out these differences? And then the last question is on international balance of forces. The election of Boris Johnson yesterday, what's your reaction? You spoke about a phenomenon of right-wing rising around the globe.
Number 3.
Thank you. This is a question from me, myself, and ITD Madia, no one else. Julius, I was listening to your speech, and you spoke about the state of your branches, what's happening in the wards, in the provinces, and even about leaders who are out to get positions as opposed to serving the organization. Now, it's a little bit strange for me, considering that a week ago you and I had a sit-down, and I asked you, what is your assessment of the state of your branches? And you seemed really, really happy with how they were performing back then, a week ago. What has changed in when you're putting together your political reports in your assessment of the state of the EFF? Thanks.
Number 4. You are covered. Number 5. Can I have 2 mics and 2 people live?
Hajra Marji from Power 987. I'll get to media in a moment, but first, Mr. Malema, did I hear you correctly in your speech when you said President Cyril Ramaphosa was captured and intended to sell off state-owned enterprises? The second question is for the Deputy President, Floyd Shivambu. In your speech in Parliament in June this year, you spoke about the crisis affecting Eskom and how a crisis would be created in order for Eskom to be sold off. Do you read what's happened in the last few days as exactly that? And then what is the EFF's plan beyond privatization of Eskom? And finally, on the issue of media freedom, it's an issue that I think some of us raised with you when you banned ANN 7. You contesting the principle of media freedom. And I understand that democracy is a contested space, but surely a broader discussion is required if you are banning some media and some journalists from your events, because tomorrow the DA will ban others and the next day the ANC will ban others. So your decision then has long-term implications for us and our work as journalists. So I want to know if you've properly considered that.
Yes, next.
Hi, Sembile Cele from City Press newspaper. A few questions. Should there be any of the current top 6 that does not return? Is there any consideration given to keeping them on in terms of additionals? And what might that process be just in terms of retaining the institutional memory? Then my second question is similar to Tiri's. Who is responsible, who should be held accountable for the current state of the structures of the party? And when did you become aware that there was such a serious decay of those structures? And then finally, with regards to the Women's Command, it sounds like you've already made a decision that it must be something that must happen. Are you still open to delegates saying, for whatever reason, that they do not think that there is a need for the Women's Command? Thank you very much.
Next.
Thank you, Sebenzile Nkambule from a new digital explainer, your news, your Azania News. My other questions have been covered, but if I heard you correctly, Mr. Malema, when you were celebrating some African leaders, you mentioned the likes of Kaunda, Sankara, Gaddafi, and so on. The only female leader I heard you mention is Mama Winnie. And I wonder if this kind of thing is why your party struggles to attract women. Please share your thoughts on that particular regard. That is she the only female leader that this party seeks to celebrate, or will that change over time? Secondly, at your current rate of growth, it may take you another 3 or 4 or maybe even more elections to get the majority that you require to lead this country. Do you feel the pressure of that? And if so, what are some of the strategies you have in place to address that? And then finally, you made special mention of your deputy, Mr. Shivambu, as well as your SG, Mr. Gadi, at the end of your address there. Why just the 2 of them and not the rest of your top 6? What should we make of that? Is that you perhaps in part also bidding them farewell?
Yes, next.
Mzondi Lembeje from the SAPC. Having banned the publications that you have banned, given the history of also banning ANN7 at some point, and when you were still at the Youth League having the fight with that BBC journalist, currently you are still an opposition party and obviously gunning to wrestle state power at some point. Are you not worried that perhaps some people will be justified in fearing that should the EFF assume power one day, they can just pick and choose on who they want as a media?
Yes, next. On the other side, yeah. Gentleman in the Scotch. Yes.
Good afternoon, Kaya Koko from the Star newspaper. I just want to ask the CIC, during your address you mentioned that there are certain, in the entertainment industry in this country, certain people have low self-esteem and they are jealous of other African performers who are excelling internationally. Who specifically were you speaking about? Are you able to mention that? Thank you.
Next to you.
Khothatso Madisa from the Sowetan. Maybe this question is to you, Ndlozi. What time is the actual nomination and the voting process? Because in the program that I received, it seems like it's later today, but during a closed session. Are you able to help me on that? And to Mr. Malema, you mentioned CCT members who basically do not perform their tasks, and they are in committees that basically do not work. Are you not empowered? Why wait until conference? Are you not empowered to remove those members in between conferences? Do you always need to wait 5 years in order to basically remove them? So.
Next.
Thanks. My name is Tando. I'm from the Mail and Guardian. Just related to the Sowetan's question with regards to the CCT members, can you mention which CCT members have been assigned but not have been doing anything in relation to their work? Also, has their non-work functions affected perhaps the wards and the functioning of the actual organization? Thanks.
Okay, next. At the back there.
Thank you. I'm Khawelo Magole with UFM and News Agency Newsnote. Firstly, the cooperation with NUMSA. I'm Kuasia. You mentioned that you want to cooperate with NUMSA. Were you sponsoring a resolution in that way? And then secondly, Pravin Gordhan, you are taking him quite a lot, especially when the load shedding started recently. But today I thought you gave him very little airtime in your report. especially now that recently, as we have heard even the likes of COSATU and the NUM are taking him. In fact, the NUM even lifting your own wedding, referring to him as a de facto prime minister and calling for his head. So I'm wondering whether it's a point of the EFF saying now we've got this man cornered and he's not worth too much of our time, or was it just a thing that happened that you think you have made a point? And lastly, Mbuyiseni, the water supply inside there, is it just a service provider that chose to provide water in that fashion, or is it a deliberate thing by the EFF to keep it clean and use cups instead of bottled water and so on? Thank you.
Okay, last one. Harry Chief, this side.
Thank you, Leadership. Noah Kobaya from Power FM. CIC, yesterday the TG mentioned that this event is fully funded by your members, and as things stand, it stands at 32 million. So what was the motive behind inviting business leaders here to come and attend this event? Or was it not to try and, raise funds for the EFF in the next 5 years? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent questions, Mr. President.
Okay, that's fine. The TG said pretty much 32 million. You hear I'm talking English, pretty much. So which means it's not exactly that. It can be more, it can be less. Now, those people who are at the business lounge paid money as part of fundraising for this. You will see on, when is it? Tomorrow? No, Saturday? Sunday? At the social evening. That entertainment of that social evening entirely is paid by the monies we raised from the business lounge. And maybe there will be some change, and the new leadership will see what we do. So she's right. That's the situation. Water. I think that we all know that bottled water is very expensive. So if we were to buy these bottles for almost 4,000 delegates, it can't be one per delegate. So we'll have to replenish and replenish and replenish. It is practically impossible. I know, my brother, you want your own bottled water, but unfortunately we don't have bottled water. So what we did, which we thought it was more convenient, was to put the tanks at the back. Anyone who wants to go and drink goes and grab a cup of water and come back. The same thing we do with coffee, the same thing we do with tea. It's for that purpose here. NUMSA, the problem is that we don't listen to ideological inputs, we listen to names. The point is, we need to consolidate forces on the left because the forces on the right are united and are attacking us. And that there is no need for NUMSA and EFF to suffer from egoism. They should put their egos aside and then come and work together. And the only way we can trust each other is to be together at the picket lines. So I'm mentioning NUMSA as an example. But listen to the theory, consolidation of the forces in the left. And then give example for lazy minds to understand what I'm talking about. Because sometimes we pitch very high and we leave a lot of people behind. That's why they ask about water. So that's what we're dealing with now. Praveen, I never mentioned Praveen. I never mentioned Zuma. I never mentioned ANC. I never mentioned any other party except Johan Rupert and Oppenheimer because they bought a country for themselves. Those are the enemies of our people. So when you write a political report, it's politics. As it's hele. As it's hell. Political report must deal with politics. Political report is not a press statement. No, it's not a press statement. They will distribute that report, you will see that it's not a press statement. Actually, intellectuals and scholars who are doing research are going to quote that report at some point. So it's very important when you write in a particular way so that there is a difference between press statement and a political report. And you can't have a report with a Jamnandas this, a Jamnandas that, a Jamnandas, no. Because that report goes into history, but Jamnandas is not going to history. He will never be in history. But if you write a report, you are going to keep him in the history of South Africa. It's an irritation that we'll get rid of, and then that's it. But those documents are historic, so you have to always be above and restrict yourself. Temptations are there all the time to want to move from the script and talk your own things, but because they go into the archives, you ought to stick to text so that people don't say, but they say he said so this in the conference during the political report, but we can't find it in the political report. So that's exactly done. Committees, the SG will report about that. SG's report is not a closed session, it's an open session. So you will see their committees there, their names there, and then he will give account that communication was in Mbuiseni, this is what they did or they did not do anything, like that. So it's not my job when I deal with politics to mention names, because that's a degeneration as well. So we're dealing with politics, so I don't deal with names. And therefore, correctly so, we have no power to remove anyone. According to our constitution, you can remove a person who absconded from meetings for 3 times without apology. But the lazy people and all that, we get them when we come here through the report. Unfortunately, that's why in my report I say, please do not deploy lazy people into the CCT or turn CCT into a dumping center, because we're going to be stuck with wheelbarrows for a very long time. 5 years is too long. So we can't do anything. They're elected. When they don't work, you can't do nothing. They're elected. And then she asked a question, why can't you remove them? Because she's waiting for you to remove them and say dictators removed those who disagree with him. So I can't do that. There's no media that was banned. There's no publication that was banned. We just refuse to associate. Banning means that we must go to Mabunga's office and shut them down and arrest the people who are... No, we just disassociate. But let me tell you, to show that you are biased and partisan, the ANC said, don't buy City Press, don't buy. Don't buy City Press, don't buy. You never asked them that question. Because that time you're causing with Zuma. You never asked them that question. Why? Why? He was a presidential, what do you call it? Presidential, Atamali Zuma. I wonder if he asked Zuma that question in one of, or your party is banning media, therefore, what I say? They are in power now. They are don't buy City Press, don't buy, didn't lead to any banning of media. You are not even worried sitting there that following the don't buy City Press, don't buy, we are worried. No, you are not worried, because it's said by your favorites, presidential convoy, envoy. Correspondent. Well, when you call names of leaders, that you admire and are relevant to what you stand for. There are so many leaders, female leaders, so many. They belong to their own political parties. They've got their own thing. So I quoted a woman who had a relationship with me, and not only me, with the EFF. If there are others, you can quote them in your conference, but that's what I did. Women's Command is my input to persuade the conference to agree. Your problem is that when I speak, you think it's a foregone conclusion. I'm not saying anything new, CD. It's in the Constitution. In my input, I said, the Women's Command is engraved in the Constitution of the EFF. If anything, this conference must say to us, no, we're not, stop it. If you felt like that, why didn't you establish it all along? Because you were given mandate in 2014. So I'm not suggesting anything new is there. It's in the Constitution of the EFF. What was the question about officials? Oh yes. So I mentioned, and SG is not even in my report. It's only Floyd there. I mentioned the SG to thank him because me and him, by virtue of our responsibilities, we work very close. We have to know about each other's activities, not every day, hourly. So if you have a Secretary General, Ace Makashule and Cyril not having a bond, you are guaranteed that thing is going to collapse. Because they are the drivers of this thing. So that's why I mentioned him, because me and him fought many times. You can't do this, you can't do this, you have to do this, blah, blah, blah. We fight and come together like siblings. Because we are required by the Constitution to have that type of a relationship. And then I zoomed into my submarine. I was submarining when I was talking to Floyd. So when you talk, it's a political talk. You either call the chair or you call anyone. You branch out. So I said, Deputy President, no. What did I say? Deputy President and my brother, Floyd Shibambo. The officials, CCT members, PCT members, disciplined delegates. As outgoing president with the powers vested in me, I officially declare this conference open. Listen to that. If you know politics, you can't have a trouble about that. Really. It's an exit point. So I would have sent out. So every time we speak, for instance, say, Comrade Chair, agree with me on that time is not even here, it's at the back, or it's not even in the wall. So it's a political talk. Or you can say, I could have deliberately said, CCT members under the capable leadership of the Deputy President. Because I'm now the one who's talking. And then when he comes, he says, CCT members under the leadership of the President. It works like that. But when you are looking for things and you are paranoid, you see things that do not exist. Where am I? Officials, media band. I think I dealt with that question of the media band. There was a question about ESCOM. What was the question about ESCOM?
Not that we said in Parliament in June, when we debated in Parliament, that they're going to cause a crisis.
Okay, but it's not only with ESCOM. So this is what is going to happen, and you ought to listen very carefully. We told you about even the Guptas. This is what's going to happen. These people came here and gave Cyril money, 1 billion. They came here to give him money. They need their investment returns. They can't just throw money. They need their returns. So the only way to pay back the billion, and it can't be a billion. They can't put a billion and then they get a billion. It has to be 3 billion or 4 billion and all. They can only do that through selling of state institutions, state companies. The first one they want is ESCOM. The second one they want is SAA. SAA press conference was held at those offices of Rothschild. They are going. These things are going. There was unbundling. Look at SAA and look at PRASA. In SAA, they put SAA under business rescue. In Prasa, Mbalula puts a war room to try and internally resolve what could be a potential problems in Prasa. But the target is SAA, is ESCOM, is DINEL. They want to buy those things, and the Ruperts will buy them, the Oppenheimers will buy them, and foreign companies will buy them. Remember when Cyril got elected, de Klerk said, if Cyril sticks to his words, everything will be fine. And his words were, if I get elected, these dysfunctional things, we'll sell them to you. So this is how capital work. They go and make a state institution to be dysfunctional, so that all of you cry and cry and cry, and then they say, that guy who owned Virgin. They say Richard Branson came to our rescue. He's buying that thing we're all complaining about that is collapsing, SAA. Because all of us, when SAA collapsed, we're all going to be angry. We're going to be worried. When they say the man is coming to rescue it, is buying it, he will save jobs, we go like, oh yeah. That's how we start. You create a crisis. You switch off electricity, not with sabotage. You just go and press a switch off and come here and say there was a sabotage. Because when there is no electricity, everybody gets angry. And when we are told there are new buyers of ESCOM, it's going to run very smooth, everybody, yeah. But it's a man-made crisis. And that's why we were shocked to get Communist Party and COSATU begging a billionaire to be a president. What drives businessmen is profit, nothing else but profit. The money into CR17 went in there, and then it went into his trust from CR17, a campaigning man. He says, no, they were paying me my money back. Which money? From which account? Where did you send it to? Let those things that are sealed in courts come out, you will see. These people want their money and they are not playing. So our president invest, what's his name? Stephen Koshev, Stellenbosch, the Oppenheimers, and that one in Bidvest. Bidvest has actually captured him long time ago. Brian Joffes captured him long time ago. I was saving in Brian Joffes thing. The mistake they did was to elect a billionaire for a president. Our branches are launched in more than 90%. We exist in almost all corners of South Africa. So we're in a conference here. We say, even when we exist in 90%, it is not to the expectations of the leadership. And to use words like decay is a desperation of a headline. We are at a formative stage. We cannot have branches that are more stronger than the parties that existed long before us. It's practically impossible. And I said to you in the press conference, that interview I had with you, 90% of our members are actually new in politics. They are joining politics for the first time with the EFF. So at a formative stage, those are the things you are going to expect. Because these people don't know. But also there is no history or tradition to learn from, to make reference and say, those who came before us, they kept the branches stronger because they were doing 1, 2, 3, 4. They are actually the first generation of branch leaders of the EFF. So I'm coming to say to them, you actually can do more. That's what I said about the student command, and the next thing was that he doesn't want the student command. Then someone came to interview me and I said, this is what I mean, and they say, you are toning down. You want them to elect you. I said, student command delegation are two people. So why would I tone down because I want to be voted for by 2 people? The point I was raising in the press conference is a point I raised with the student command. I said to them, I've led a student organization, made it very strong. I led a youth organization, to a point where that youth organization became a political party within a political party. I know what youth are capable of, and I'm not getting that from you, the student command. You'll have to convince us when you leave your conference, so that when we arrive at the National People's Assembly, you ought to have answers why we shouldn't disband you. That's me agitating them to be serious, to focus and say, we must form now an organization which has got a life of its own. That's what I meant by that. So I'm doing the same now with branches. You are not doing enough. You are not doing enough. Even when we do by-elections in the wards, you are not winning the wards because you are not known, meaning you are not leading community struggles where you are branches. Boris Johnson, that's just right wing. That is a Trump of England. They are best friends. We don't expect anything from that development. Actually, Trump was the one to tell us long before, when he was insulting Theresa May. He said to Theresa, "Oh, I'm happy Britain is going to have a new prime minister." He knew even before that lady was removed from. So the same WhatsApp group. So there's nothing much to be expected from them. SANEF will meet them if they still want to meet us. We said we'll meet them after elections. We met SANEF, by the way, during ANN 7. They came to us, we had a meeting with them. We told them our difficulties. They agreed in corners, or hey, we can see this thing is not going to work. So we'll meet them again. If they want to meet, we don't have any business with meeting SANEF. If SANEF thinks it has got business to meet us, we are public representatives, we are a party in parliament. We meet everyone who wants to meet us. So SANEF must come. The media regulation, I make the point in my report that we support it, but we must tighten the regulating bodies, ICASA and Ombudsman. So we need yes, the Broadcast Complaining Commission. We need to meet. We need to give them teeth. They must bite. ICASA, is it ICASA that tells us about data must fall? Data is expensive. Competitions Commission, but structures like ICASA are not zooming into the space to make sure that these things are implemented. So they don't have teeth. They don't have teeth. Journalists themselves are saying to go to ombudsman actually is a waste of time. They say it's a waste of time. And to go to court is very expensive. But tell me here, and I want you to think about this. Amabungan is raising money. And they say, give us money for the following reasons. Then the first reason they say, Malema hates us. Daily Maverick. They are different, those things. It's the same thing, man. Daily Maverick says, Malema hates us. Give us money. So you want me to come and sit with such people, to give such people interviews who are raising money in the name, in my family name, that I hate them. They raise money the same way AfriForum raises money. Give us money, we'll take Malema to court. Those are right-wing structures. They are serving an agenda of white supremacists who are threatened by the posture we've taken as the EFF. Give us money, Malema hates us. And then, no, media freedom. That's not media. It's a war. There's no media freedom. It's no media freedom. There's no anyone, even you sitting here, it doesn't matter how much you hate the EFF, you will never agree that part of your reason of existence is that Malema hates you. And then tomorrow say you want to come to the conference of the people who hate you, eat their food, drink their water, gallivant in the yard that is paid by people who hate you, they can go to hell. And anyone who wants to go to hell with them, accompany them. We care less. NHI we support. But the way it's being conducted is very suspicious. Whereas that, you know, the prices of private doctors are not properly regulated and they're expensive. And if any patient can just walk into any facility and then they put a claim at NHI tomorrow, that thing will collapse. The private sector is going to benefit more. So NHI must go hand in hand with building well-equipped and capacitated health facilities so that we don't see the need to go to the private hospital. Like in Kenya, you've got public schools performing very well to a point where parents are now withdrawing children from private schools because they say, but this expensive thing that we're getting here, we can get it in public schools for cheap. And the only thing we can do now is to regulate the pricing. If we can't build infrastructure at the same time with rolling out NHI, then we have to regulate the price. Otherwise, the doctors are going to be the richest people. The owners of hospitals, the pharmaceutical companies are going to be the richest people. The Mediclinics, Netcare, these groups are going to make a lot of money. So, I mean, when you are sick, there is Baragwanath here, and someone says to you, Sunning Hill Hospital, you can go and get for free. There's no one who's going to go into that Baragwanath. They are going to walk past it, straight into Sunning Hill. And Sunning Hill is going to charge NHI crazy amounts. But because we are dealing with businessmen as a president, he might have calculated profits. Or no, let's implement this. People are going to rush into private hospitals. When they rush into private hospitals, we maximize profit, and then we make our money. Now, licenses of private hospitals are being issued like hotcakes. People are now getting licenses of hospitals because NHI is coming. So in Chilidzini, in Venda, there must be a hospital, big private hospital. No one will go to Chilidzini Hospital. So please, we have to pay a much closer attention. We are running the Section 25 committee. We're the bosses of that thing. We are the ones who conceptualized it. We don't miss meetings. We make input. Any other person who want to come and make a contribution, we criticize them and critique their input to make sure that it is really a genuine input. So we have made our submissions, and the report, there was supposed to be a report actually of the Section 25. That day we sent Matthias. When we couldn't, there was supposed to be a draft report. So we're going to look at the draft report and see if it captures the imaginations of the EFF. And then from there, we'll take it from there. So, Section 25 is our baby, and we will not leave it until we realize the first cardinal pillar. I think I answered all of them. Which one? Yeah, before our spokesperson dies here. I'm done. Nominations. Sorry.
Nominations and the time closed.
This is how we're doing. We're going back now. It will be messages of support. Then after messages of support, it will be organizational report. After organizational report, we're going to adjourn for 15 minutes to allow you to pack your things and our guests. Then it will be a treasurer's report. Immediately after treasurer's report, the IEC takes over and dissolves the CCT. Before they do that, they will call you back. So once the treasurer's report is presented, we'll have a brief discussion about the three reports, because we're going to have commissions. That's where the real debate will take place. Then from there, it will be open for media to come and observe the nominations. Everything will be done today. If there is a contest, The voting will happen today, the counting will happen tonight, and the results will be announced once the counting finishes.
The capacity of the state to lead development.
Which this ones or a general state?
Because
as a theoretical question.
As a theoretical question.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh.
So I said in my report, we must do the Chinese model, where we capacitate the state-owned companies and we channel massive projects to those companies to be headed by them, so that there will be infrastructural development and industrialization, and through that create jobs and grow the economy. And the point I make in my report is that there is no proven record anywhere in the world that development and for the country to be successful, the private investment has come in to help in that regard. So China, it is what it is because it's state-led in the strategic sectors of the economy. Cuba is like that because it is state-led when it comes to the economic development. So the politics influence the economic direction of the country, and the economy is controlled by the state. In a country where the economy is controlled by the few, it is the few who will decide the direction of the economy for their own benefit. So we are saying to avoid private capital influencing our own direction, both politically and economically, we ought to own strategic sectors of the economy. So when we take over the SAA, for instance, we will appoint a well-capacitated South Africans, black and white, give them the right to run SAA with very minimal interference by the shareholder. Because the problem we suffered in SAA is the shareholder. The problem we suffered in ESCOM is the shareholder, which wants to force the board members to follow a certain particular direction. That's why the CEO, a well-capacitated, relatively young chap, left. He had a plan, he had a mission, he knew where he wants to take the SAA to. But Jamnandas went there and disrupted that young man. So the EFF government is going to be, the EFF economy will be led by the state, because where the state leads, we know that people will get results. The state will not be driven by maximizing profit, but will be driven by the will of the people. What do our people want? Where are they based? How do we take those economic opportunities to them wherever they are? So there was a Chinese who came to us and said they want to open a steel factory. And then they said that steel factory must be an hour, if it must not be more than an hour from the airport. That's what they tell us. But the people who need jobs are not an hour from the airport. So in China, when you come with such attitude, I'm coming to invest, but good boy, this is where you're going to invest. They take you where people need the jobs the most, and then you open factories there, you open industries there, so that those people get to benefit. So if you want to know how EFF is going to do it, just look at China. We have to kill for protection of our economy and our country. Anyone found guilty of corruption after independent judiciary has presided over those cases, we must lock them up for life. Because when you steal money of ARVs, you are a murderer. So you must be treated like any other murderer. When you steal money for medicine, you are a murderer. So we need to punish. There is no punishment here. We have a country with the highest form of corruption, but there is no single minister, not even deputy, who has ever been successfully sent to jail. But how can this corruption happen under the watch of these guys and they are not involved? Because they are the ones who control these resources. So that's why we say we need a judiciary that is not biased, a judiciary that bites and treats people equally, not because they like this one or dislike that one. The problem in our current state-owned companies is corruption. People are taking for themselves, and it's not corruption only of Africans. Actually, in SAA, it's a white corruption. They are deeply rooted, and they are not occupying strategic position. They are not known. They are not known. They are the ones who decide who gets a fuel tender, who decide this. And some of them are extremely old. They will never leave those positions because they are the ones who are benefiting. You go to Transnet, the same thing. But the face of corruption in SAA, in Transnet, is black people. As if these whites are not involved in corruption in those state-owned entities. So we need to deal with corruption, white or black, ruling party or opposition, it doesn't matter. We need a judiciary that can save us from this thing. The only thing that can save us from this mess of state companies that are dysfunctional is, firstly, the police. The hawks must not be corrupt. Then the prosecuting authority, they must not be corrupt. Then the judiciary, they must not be corrupt. But when you appoint an NDPP with the hope that he will protect Cyril and go after Julius, then you must know we've lost a mark. This is what Cyril did when he came to power. He did exactly what Zuma did. If you want to see how corrupt these people are, they took SARS and they took NPA. That's where you start. Then once you've got the two, you are made. Because Cyril's non-disclosure of those donations must attract 50% penalty and 200% interest. You can count for yourself. He took 1 billion. He never paid taxes on it from the well-wishers. The biting SARS should give Cyril an assessment and say to him, since you have not disclosed these sources of funds, 50% penalty, 200% interest. He knew that when he became a president, and he said, yay, we need to take SARS, we need to take NDPP. And they were helped by Nugent, Judge Nugent. Yeah? Am I pronouncing it properly? It's him. He's part of the mess. Who said judges can't be criticized? Nugent helped to capture SARS. He did, to save the incumbent. And I don't understand why, what is that guy? Tom Moyani didn't take that thing on review and expose it for what it is. We are not Moyani's friends. We don't care about Moyani. But we are not going to say because this person is going after our enemy, even if he's going after them wrongly, we must not do anything. No. SARS is captured by people who are well known and friends of Trevor Manuel, who was chairing that interviews of those people. The second one is NPA. It's captured. It can't prosecute. It can only prosecute those who oppose the president. Let me tell you, and this is my last point, we are cruising back into that state we were before. We are going back there. I've read your report, Young Yani. Cyril is your friend, but he's your favorite, not friend. Your book, you write very nicely of him there. I can tell you those things you wrote there, that's not him. That is what you are being sold to as the media. The real man is a man who runs government for the benefit of the few who are in business with him to maximize profit. Thank you.
Okay. I just have one quick announcement that there is free Wi-Fi here. It's EFF Media. You don't need a passcode. So all the best in your critical accounting mechanisms that you are imposing on us. I now bring closure to this session. Thank you very much, Mr. President and officials.